Hello friends, my name is Vijarana. Welcome to my channel named Packager or the Vijarana classes. So friends, from today onwards, I am starting a new series and the name of this series is .NET Core Interview Questions. I will try to post all the important questions related to the .NET Core in this series. So it's imperative to remember all these questions going for a .NET Core interview. So let's start what I'm going to cover in today's video. What are the questions which I will cover? So in today's video, I will cover three very important interview questions, which I believe you always should remember if you are going for a .NET Core interview. It doesn't matter you are fresh or experienced, but you will face these interview questions always. So the first question is, what are the dependencies? What is inversion of control principle? And what is dependency injection? So all these questions are related to the dependency injection. But sometimes, if any interviewer asks like what is dependency injection and you try to answer, so in between they can ask that what's the meaning of the dependencies or what's the meaning of the inversion of control. So in today's video, I will try to explain all these three concepts with the help of the coding and what you need to answer in the interview. So let's start with the first question. When we are saying or someone asks that what are the dependencies? So whenever we talk about the dependency injection, so the first thing comes into the mind that when we are talking about the dependency injection, what's the meaning of dependencies? So that thing we need to understand first. And I will try to explain this with the help of some examples. So let's start. Let me open the Visual Studio. I'm creating a blank project here. Let me create a web API project. .NET Core web API. And let me put the name dependency injection only. Next. Create. This project, I will try to explain what's the meaning of dependency, what's the meaning of inversion of control, and what's the meaning of dependency injection. The first thing first we need to understand what's the meaning of dependency. I'm creating here, let me check. When I created this project, so I have a default controller here and I have some classes as well. So if you want to remove these, you can. I don't need this. So let me create a controller first. MVC API controller and I'm putting a name DI controller, let's say, because we are understanding we are in dependency injection, so that's why it's a DI controller. So you can take any name, it's up to you. And let me create a class here. Okay, and new class. That's so here I have a class B. Inside that class B, I have a method public and let's say void and let's say test method. And what I'm doing, let me create one, let me use this class inside of a controller class. Let's say I have a method here, public action result, and let me create a void. Void and let me so inside of a controller I have a method A and I have a class B. So if I create object of my B class in my A controller class inside the function A, So then this is called the dependency. Now, A class is dependent on the B class because we are creating the object of B class in the DI controller class inside the A method. So this is called the dependencies. Now A class is dependent on B class. If B, let's say after some time, if B class says that I need a parameter here, then what you need to do, you need to change this method as well. Are dependent on the implementation of the B class. Uh, B class means the test method of the B class. The meaning of dependencies. If someone asks, so definition wise, a dependency is an object or class that another object class depends on. Like in our example, the A method or the DI controller class, which I just created, inside that we created a method named A that was dependent on the B class because that was calling the B method, a test method of the B class. So that is called the dependency. If someone will change, if we will change something in let's say in our example in B class here, we need to change the implementation of the A class as well. This is called the dependency. Problems what we have in case of dependencies, change or replace a method will not be easy as other class are dependent on that. We just saw if we have a method here and A is dependent on that, if you will change that method, then you will have to change the implementation as well because these two are tightly coupled now. If something will change, I need to change as well. The other thing, if a method will change, the dependent methods will also be changed. Like we saw in large project with multiple classes dependent on a single class or function. Like suppose we are talking about a single function here. Like class B has some function, A class is dependent on that. If we will change something in B class, we'll have to change the A. So we are talking about the single function only. But let's think about a large project where we have, like you can say, many modules and you created a method and you are calling that method in different modules. Let's say if you are changing that method, then you will have to change those all the classes or all the modules where you are using that particular method which you are changing. So it will be very like big task. If someone is changing that dependent object, then you need to change all those classes where you are using that. Difficult for unit testing because our system will be tightly coupled, and in case of tightly coupled system we can't perform the unit testing. In order to perform the unit testing, our system should be loosely coupled. Problems with the dependencies. So whenever we talk about the dependency injection, the first thing we need to understand the dependency. Here I explained, I'm explaining again. If suppose I have a class B, I have a method inside that class and I'm using that particular method or I'm calling that method inside the class A, it means class A is dependent on the class B and this is called the dependency. This is clear, but in case if you have any doubt in this question, you can simply write that doubt in the comment section. I am more than happy to answer that. Now, the next question, and again, this question is related to the dependency injection only. Just learn that what's the meaning of dependencies. Now, what's the meaning of inversion of control? If you talk about the naming, inversion of control, it seems like it's not related to the dependencies, but it's related to the dependencies. So we just learned dependency means I have some method here and I'm calling that method inside the class A. It means class A is dependent on the class B. What we are going to do, we want that class A should not be directly dependent on the class B. We want an abstraction here. So we will create an interface here. Let's say we have a class B, so I just named it IB. And this class B will implement the interface. So rather than invoking directly the class B methods from the class A will be dependent on the interface. Now, previously what was happening here? Class A was dependent on the class B. Now, class B is depending on the methods which we have in the interface and class A is depending on the interface. This is called the inversion of control. So we are changing the control now. Previously, we were saying class A is dependent on the class B. Now we are saying no, we are not depending on the class B. We are depending on a interface, and class B again is dependent on this interface now. Class B will implement the methods which we have inside this interface. The dependency inversion principle allows A call methods on an abstraction that B implements, means class A will call the method of the interface, whatever we have, and the class B is implementing those methods, making it possible for A to call B at runtime. What's the meaning of this? I will just explain through the coding. Okay, let me jump to the code for this. So previously what we were doing here, we were, let me change the name a little bit. This is, let's say, A controller. It will be easy to understand. And B class, let's say. And let me change the method B. Okay, so that will be easy to understand. And now B class. We are creating the method of the B class. We just change the implementation and obj B dot B method. The same thing. We didn't do anything. We just changed the name. So what we are doing, what we are saying in case of inversion of control. In this example, again, our A class, like the class name is A controller, inside that we have a method that is dependent on the class B. So what inversion of control says, remove this dependency, because this is the compile time dependency. Compile time dependency means at the compile time only, when I'm writing this, I know we have a B class and we are just creating an object of that class, and we are just calling the method of that class. This is a compile time dependency. Okay, what we need to do now, I will create an interface here and new item and interface. Now I have an interface here. Now let me create one method here. Let's say B, because previously there was a method B, I believe. Yeah. So I have interface IP. So now what B class will do, this class will implement this interface. And inside that we have a B method. So we didn't change this method, but indirectly this method, this particular B class is implementing of this interface, because we have the, if I show you, this is B method available inside this interface. Class is implementing that interface. Now let me change little bit this part as well, because we are calling from here. Rather than calling from here, what I will do, IP obj B again is equal to new class, B class. This is not the compile time. We just invert the controls. So what we are saying, we are not dependent on B class. Then where we are dependent on now? We are dependent on an interface. Class is saying, no, we are not depending on you. We are depending on the interface. It's not a compile time now, because we have an interface and we are putting an object of the concrete class. So all at runtime. So these are the runtime dependency, not the compile time. We are not, A class is saying we are not dependent on the B class now. We are dependent on a where on a interface. And what B class is saying, oh, now I am dependent on this interface. Like whatever we have inside this interface, I will have to implement that, because this is the basic rule of the interface. Whatever you can say the declaration we have inside the interface, that class who is implementing that interface need to define all those methods. So now the control has been inverted, and this is called the IOC, inversion of control. In case of inversion of control, class will have a some kind of abstraction. Abstraction means either abstract class or you can say interface. So in this case, we have an interface here. This class will always implement one interface, and the calling class or the dependent class, which is in our case is this A controller class, will create the object of the IB rather than directly initiating that. So this is called the inversion of control. So I'll tell you the definition now. If suppose interviewer asks, what's the inversion of control? Answer should be applying the dependency. Like first you will define that what's the dependencies. Then you will define how the dependency is changing if you have interface. So all these things you need to define to interviewer. Then only he will be convinced. By the definition, so applying the dependency inversion principle, which we just applied, allows A to call methods on an abstraction like we did. Like we just call the methods on the abstraction. We created one interface that B implements. In our case, B was implementing the IB interface. So the A class was calling the interface methods, making it possible for A to call B at runtime, because whenever we call through interface or through the abstract class, that call will be at the runtime. Okay, it won't be the compile time. That decision will be taken at the runtime. But for B to depend on an interface controlled by A at compile time. What we are saying here, like we have a IB. IB knows at the this is the B class. B knows at the compile time that I am implementing. So B class is dependent on this interface at the compile time, but the object which we are creating, that decision will be taken at the runtime. This is called the inversion of control. Even it's not necessary to explain this compile time or the runtime thing. I'm just explaining for the sake of your understanding so that you can understand and you can explain it in your own terms. At runtime, the flow of the program execution remains unchanged. But the introduction of the interface means the different implementation of these interface can easily be plugged in. Okay? What's the meaning of this? Maybe we have multiple classes B1, B2, B3, and all those classes are implementing this IB interface. What we can do, we can easily plug in any class here. Like now I'm implementing B class, so I can just change the B1 class here. Interface will be same, but we can just plug in any class here. This will help us to make a loosely coupled system. And if we have the loosely coupled system, we can write the unit test cases very easily. We can write some more classes and we can plug in case of unit test case, and we can test them very easily. What this inversion of control will solve us? It will help us. Dependency inversion is the key part of the building loosely coupled application. As I told you, we can plug in any dependency in the interface at runtime, because that's the interface and multiple classes are implementing that particular interface. So the system is loosely coupled application or loosely coupled system. The application are more testable. So whenever we talk about the loosely coupled system, we know if we have the loosely coupled system, it means our system is more testable. We can write more classes and we can easily plug in those classes and we can test the application. We can write the unit test cases. The practice of dependency injection is made possible. Yeah. Now the final question. The dependency injection. Dependency injection is only and only possible if we are implementing this inversion of control principle. If we are not implementing this, it means we can't implement the dependency injection. Hope this question is clear. In simpler term, inversion of control is only and only possible if we are implementing some kind of abstraction. Some kind of abstraction means either we are implementing the interface or the abstract class. I hope this is clear to you. But in case of any question, if you have in this inversion of control, then you can write in the comment section. Again, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. Okay, let's move to the next question and the final question. What is dependency injection now? Now we know what are the dependencies. Now we know what's the inversion of control. How to implement the inversion of control. In order to implement the inversion of control, we need to implement the interfaces and then we can. Now, what is dependency injection? Interviewer asks this question. First thing we need to answer, that what are the dependencies. Then you need to explain what's the meaning of the inversion of control. Then you will come to the dependency injection, because if you have already answered what are the dependencies and what's the meaning of inversion of control, it means 90% you already answered. Now the final part is dependency injection. So dependency injection is a design pattern through which we implement inversion of control. Like we make the system loosely coupled. Inversion of control meaning loosely coupled system. And the most important part is it is inbuilt in .NET framework. When like whenever we talk about .NET Core, it's inbuilt. We don't need to do anything. In case of dependency injection, the first thing what we need to do, we need some kind of container like we have here. And in that container, we need to register all our services. Like in this case, I have a IB interface, and that interface I am implementing in the class B. So we need to register this dependency or this abstraction in some kind of container. And the rest of the things .NET will do for us. We don't need to worry about anything. The only thing we need to register these things in some kind of container. We have some containers available. You can download through the NuGet, like we have the AutoFet, Windsor, but .NET also have inbuilt containers. I will explain in a separate video what's the meaning of that container which .NET Core use, because that's another very important interview question. But here we need to understand like how we achieve the dependency injection in .NET. Two things you need to remember, it's inbuilt in .NET. Like this container is available. The only thing you need to do, you need to register your services. We will do, like we will see in the code. But before that, it's inbuilt in .NET framework, and the advantage of the dependency injection is dependency solves problem through interfaces. We know it because dependency injection we can implement through inversion of control. In case of inversion of control, we need the interfaces. So without that, we can't solve this. .NET support the dependency injection through which we achieve inversion of control. We just explained. I registered the dependency in the service container. .NET provides the built-in service container I service provider. This is what I'm talking about. So we have an inbuilt container, but I will write this question again in a separate interview question. How we will use the dependency injection in the form. We have a interface. We have achieved the inversion of control here, and we have a config class here where we have implemented. So now what we need to do here, where is our program class? Here. So here we need to register our services. Let me show you how to do that. Page dot services. And register, like we have a different things through which we can register, that I will explain in separate video, but I'm using for today's like add score. The interface name IB. This is the container, remember, and the class which we have which are implementing this is the IB. This is what you need to do. Saying here, like we are registering. Let me open that again. So we are registering that this is the interface, this is the concrete class. Where we need an object of this, so we will just call this. So automatically this container will give the object of the B class. Let's see how .NET will do that part for us. Not here, I believe here, yeah. So public at the constructor. Let me use a private. You can make it read only as well. It's up to you. IB. Let's say obviously B. Let me create a obviously B. Let me use the proper notation. And in the constructor, IB is a B. So what we need to do? We need to just put this here. So whenever we will call this, automatically what .NET will do, .NET will create the object of the dependency which we registered, in our case that is B class, and will create the or that object to us, and we will just assigning in this local variable. Now we don't need to create any object here. We need to just use this. That's it. So this is called the dependency injection. Here we just register our service. Service means like whatever we created the interface and the implemented concrete class in a container, and rest .NET will do for us. .NET will automatically provide the object of that concrete class whenever we will use the interface in our constructor. We implement that dependency injection. So friends, these are the questions, and I will just tell you one more thing, like based on my own experience, and I believe that you will also take this suggestion into your account, because I personally believe that's very useful. Don't try to mug up anything. Just understand the concepts. Just try those concepts in your own language. Like now you know the concept of dependency. You don't need to mug up the definition. You know the dependency that this is class A, this is class B. If we are creating an object with the class B, then that is called the dependency. So you can just explain with your own ideas, with your own terms. So similarly, you can explain the inversion of control. So you need to understand the concepts rather than mugging up that particular definition. But I will be more than happy if you can write some more questions. If you have any list which you think I should explain and you are struggling with, then I'm more than happy to explain those questions as well. Please write those questions in the comment section, and please let me know whether the content is good or not, and like, or any other suggestions if you have. So that will definitely help me a lot. Till then, okay, bye bye. Take care. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because it requires lots of efforts to create such kind of presentation. So if you will share it, that will definitely motivate me. Thank you. Thank you all.